The Charleston County School District is working hard to turn around some of the area's most vulnerable schools with its Acceleration Schools initiative. Today, I talk one-on-one with Jacqueline Haynes, the Associate Superintendent of Acceleration Schools for the Charleston County School District, for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Jacqueline Haynes, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here, and it's really nice to meet you, Quintin.
Yes, ma'am. I know that obviously you're the Associate Director of, obviously, the Associate Superintendent, that is, of the Acceleration Schools for Charleston County Schools, which is an initiative in which you are obviously a comprehensive multi-year school turnaround effort focused on serving our community's most vulnerable schools. So let me ask you, Ms. Jacqueline, what's new, what's now?
Well, what's new and what's now, we have great news celebrating Acceleration Schools, because we've had some schools that have increased their level of performance based on the state. So they have moved from one level to the next level, which is a higher level as far as the school grading is concerned. So they are making major improvements. As you're aware, we have 11 schools that are Acceleration Schools, and basically those are in our inner city communities. And most of those schools are populated by Black and Brown students. And some of them are on the state list, the South Carolina state list for improvement. And some of those schools are feeder patterns within the schools. So we are excited about the movement that is taking place with our Acceleration Schools.
Now, Ms. Jacqueline, out of those 11 schools, how many of those schools recently have moved up to the next level?
5.
Alrighty.
5 of them. 5 have moved from below average to average. At least 4 of them have moved below average to average. And those schools are Hunley Park, Stono Park, Morningside Middle School, which is amazing because Morningside has a reputation of not doing as well, but they have moved from below average to average, and they were 1 point away from having a good rating. And we also have the name of the school is Goodwin, that moved from unsatisfactory to below average, and those are the schools. Yes.
So now, what else held back that particular school from getting to the next level as far as that average point that you mentioned?
So what has held students back are their ELA scores, their English language arts scores, or their math scores. It is very important that we pay attention to the bottom quintile students as far as performance and improving that performance, as well as the academic performance. How are we accelerating those students at the proficiency level? So those are very critical points, which means that we really have to focus on ELA and math, English language arts and math curriculum. So that has been a turning point for our teachers, our leaders in the schools, and for our students.
Now, how many students overall in the district have scored meets or exceeds on the SC College or Career Ready Assessment, EL, in math for the past 4 years?
Well, we have an initiative right now in our district, which is one of the goals that Superintendent Kennedy has put in place, and that is to improve the performance of Black and Brown students, scoring 25% on ELA to at least 60% higher, scoring at least 60% or higher by 2027. So the focus is on reading. So we've had years of experiences with students not doing well in the reading curriculum. So that is a goal for our district, and we're very focused on making sure that happens.
So what years of experience are you talking? How many years?
Wow, I've only been here 2.5 years, so I'm sure prior to my coming, based on the Clemson report that I've read regarding schools in Charleston, that we've been in this position for a number of years.
And when you talk about those reading scores, where exactly are the African American students scoring?
25% and below, which is not good. Of them are scoring below average or unsatisfactory.
And where exactly in the district do you see that? Which areas?
Well, the areas, as
Geographical.
far as the geographically, yes,
Yeah.
our black and brown students. So it could be within the city of Charleston,
Okay.
North Charleston.
Okay.
That's where most of my schools are in North Charleston. And then right here on the peninsula, we have Mitchell,
Oh, yes.
we have Stono Park. So some of the schools in the North Charleston area, such as Shakora, Goodwin,
Sure.
uh, Hunley Park, and others that are in those areas.
And Ms. Jacqueline, going back to obviously the schools that you talked about earlier, as far as them moving up levels, what was the timetable for that, for them getting to where they are now?
Well, of course, we want that to happen in a year, right? We want vast improvement within 1 year. But we know as far as the school turnaround process is concerned, it takes 2 to 3 years to move a school. And they have done a tremendous job. When I say they, the leaders and the staffs at the school have done a really good job of, during this pandemic, because we started this process in the middle of the pandemic.
Right.
They've done an amazing job of moving our students. So it takes, Quintin, at least 2 to 3 years, and maybe a little bit longer, 4 years, to move our schools. So we're headed in the right direction. Every school improved score-wise. Maybe they did not get out of the unsatisfactory or below average status, but their scores improved. So the trajectory looks, good for the coming year.
Now, those schools that haven't moved out of the unsatisfactory category, what are those schools currently?
Those schools are Shakora and Mitchell.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Wow. And where are they right now on that timetable as far as getting closer to that, getting out of that category?
I would guarantee next year they're going to move out of the unsatisfactory component. And our goal is to move them to average, but we got to get through that below average and then to average and then up to good. So we're working really hard with Mitchell and Shakora, making sure that they have after school tutoring for students that is happening now and then after Christmas, and ensuring that our teachers have the capacity and the skills to make sure we're moving those students and involving parents as well.
And I want to get to those questions in just a second. But when you talk about the acceleration schools, Ms. Jacqueline, how many school students and staff do you have altogether?
Wow, that's a good question. I have 11 schools with approximately 600 plus students. And staff, oh wow, I have not counted the staff,
Okay.
but it's well over 150 staff members.
So with those amount of people, what is your budget?
Well, wow, that's a good question. My budget, the district has been very generous in providing a budget for improvement of acceleration schools. And also we had ESSER funding.
Right.
So I was able to get a large chunk of ESSER funds to help with the improvement. It was very timely that, we decided, or the federal government decided to give support to schools. But the funding has been very generous. So we've been able to have professional development for teachers. We're working with the University of Virginia and the school turnaround process they have with the Darden School of Business.
Right.
So our principals and teachers are working with that organization, as well as specific professional development from leading educators that supports our work.
So what is the biggest difference about professional development from the time that they started to the time that now they're involved with the University of Virginia?
The difference is it is more intentional around what it takes to move turnaround schools. So our focus is on leadership, on talent development. We focus on the climate and culture of the school, as well as the instructional infrastructure. So the biggest part of that funds have been with talent development, making sure our teachers have the capacity, and then the instructional infrastructure, making sure that we have rigorous curriculum, and then professional development and training the teachers how to use that curriculum and how to work with our students. The other piece of that is a cultural competency piece, making sure that our teachers understand what it takes and the care, the culture of care, as well as knowing who our students are and moving them academically.
So what is that climate right now within those 11 schools?
Oh, the climate is fantastic. It is, I went this weekend to watch two of our schools run in the 5K reindeer race.
Yes.
And just to see some of our Black and brown students and all of our students running, being exposed to even being downtown, being able to walk into the Charleston hotel and seeing the Christmas festivities. Some of them, this was their very first run. So the climate at all the schools is improved as far as students and parents knowing what's happening in the school. For the teachers, I can tell you the climate as it relates to the professional development, they feel empowered, they feel supported, and they feel that they have strong leadership in their schools. Our principals, our leaders in these schools are phenomenal leaders. The district has done a very good job prior to me coming of selecting strong principals, and I've been able to fill one or two positions with principals since I've been here. So our principals are very strong leaders.
Now, you talk about being here for a couple of years. Where did you come from?
I came from Hillsborough County, Tampa, Florida, and it's the same work. They're the 7th largest school district in the country, and there were turnaround schools. Okay. In fact, there were 50 of them. Wow. And part of my job was to assist in turning those schools around. So the model that was somewhat done there, I've developed a strategic plan here to do the same work, and it's working, Quintin. I am so proud of what has taken place with these schools. The goal is, though, is to gradually release once they improve, and those leaders and teachers can continue the work without having the daily touch that I have with them. So we're basically building schools that can sustain this growth and continue down the path of improvement without having that daily, weekly, monthly touch.
So what is your interaction with the principals and teachers on a daily or weekly basis?
It is daily and weekly, okay? So I have a team of 5. I have an instructional reading coach and a district instructional math coach, as well as a director, and we are constantly in schools. So at least I'm in schools once a week coaching principals. The district instructional specialists are coaching the coaches. In our schools, we have an ELA coach and a math coach, which was a change for some of our schools. So they're constantly coaching them, and we're doing classroom observations to support our teachers.
So what is that process when it comes to classroom observation?
So the process is we provide professional development on different strategies. So let's say the first 9 weeks, we're looking in math at teacher talk. Now, are students being able to talk more than the teacher? Are there engaging activities? So we provide the professional development on that particular skill. Then we're walking through classrooms looking for just that for the entire 9 weeks and giving them feedback. We have a system that we use called Whetstone, where I can see the principal's feedback, I can see the instructional coach's feedback, and even my own feedback. I can see what teachers are being asked to do and what their next steps are. So with that high touch, not that we're looking to make sure they're doing what's right, but giving them support that they need to get it right. So it's coaching for the entire 9 weeks.
So, Ms. Jacqueline, with that feedback, how's that helping you with your strategic plan?
Oh, that's a great question. We just had a meeting last week looking at the feedback and determining what are our next steps for next year. One of the things that we have done is tiered our schools because some of them at this point don't need as much of a high touch as others do. So we're having to look at our data, which comes back frequently, our iReady data, our Whetstone data, and we have a data strategist. Let me tell you about that. We have a data strategist from Harvard that we wrote a fellowship, an application for a fellowship to have a Harvard data strategist come to our district, and we are constantly pulling data to determine what our next steps are with schools. So we had a meeting last Friday to look at new data and determine who are the schools that need additional support from us. And so we're constantly using that data to help us with making determinations on our strategic plan.
Now, what schools actually have the high touch now, and what schools don't really need your high touch?
Well, the schools that have moved to the next level, not that we're not touching them, we're still in the schools. Right. So my Honey Parks, my Stonos, they have a Morningside. I don't touch them as much. And some of my other schools that I still need to really work with are Mitchell and Shakura, right? Because those two schools have a high number of free and reduced lunch students in their schools. So we have lots of work to do there.
So what percentage of those students are getting free or reduced lunch right now?
Basically 99% at both schools. Between 97 and 99% of those students are on free and reduced lunch.
Wow. And how long has that been going on?
I think that has been, Quintin, that has always been the case with Shakura and with Mitchell.
Wow. Yeah. I know Mitchell very, very well. Let me go back because you talked about it earlier, but what strong leadership do you have to match quality curriculum?
So the strong leadership definitely comes from the principal and our coaches and myself that are working with the principals to ensure that our curriculum is being implemented correctly. The curriculum that we have in math and in ELA are they're the top curriculums in the country. So if you go on Ed Reports, you'll see that both of those curriculums are rated number one. And so it's really important that our principals have the leadership skills they need to ensure that the curriculum is implemented and that they're supporting the teachers in doing so. So I hope I answered your question.
Oh, yes, ma'am. And you talked earlier about the culture, obviously, when it comes to accelerated with the schools. But let me ask you this. This is something I wanted to ask you about very early in the interview, but I'll ask you now. But what is that new supportive school culture today?
So the new support, you mean as far as what we are doing in our schools?
Yes, ma'am.
That the new support is, again, the high touch, is the coaching of the principal. And when I say coaching a principal, we're sitting with them for an hour and a half to 2 hours, looking at their data, looking at their decisions that they're making regarding their students, and coaching them to making the best decisions for their schools. Principals have to have autonomy. So this is not coaching where, we have a strict checklist and you will do this and you will do that, but it's teaching the principal, coaching the assistant principals to what decisions need to be made and how do we make those decisions and why is this the best decision or not the best decision for the school. So it's teaching them how to be leaders and still giving them that autonomy, but still having some parameters of we have to improve these schools and we have to improve them now. So there's a sense of urgency, but yet a little bit of autonomy.
So, Ms. Jacqueline, when you look at that data, what has surprised you all thus far?
The biggest surprise has been the vast improvement with their ELA scores. That has been amazing. We have found that our students in English language arts, they're more engaged. They're learning how to work with their peers in small groups. It is not sit and get, but students are looking for the information that is needed to understand their stories, why an author has written, the author's point of view, understanding the author's point of view, being critical thinkers. And then they're making connections, not only in their ELA, but with science and with social studies. So that has been amazing. And the scores are showing it.
And when I was a Charleston County School District student many years ago in the 90s, I know we always had area superintendents, like Dr.
Right.
Barbara Dillicard and those folks. So what is the biggest difference between area superintendents and what you are doing right now with Acceleration Schools?
Wow. I can tell you from my previous experience in another district, assistant area superintendents were more in the district that I came from, were more kind of like just making sure the school was running well, right? Making sure that the facilities were great, that teaching was happening, that the principals were controlling the environment. I think the difference now is we're engaged with the work. We have to be experts in the curriculum as well. I have to know what those look-fors are when I go into a classroom or when I'm working with a principal. I have to be knowledgeable of implementation of English, math, science, and social studies. And I have to be present in the schools. So when I walk into a school, it can't be, the area superintendent is here. It needs to be, I'm just one of them. And so the more that I'm in the school, the more I am part of the staff, not an outsider, but an insider coming to help. So that's the biggest difference. I hope that kind of answers your question. So when I walk into schools now, it's normal. It's not something that, they're here, we got to get everything together. I'm part of the staff.
Now, you talk about staff and obviously being a newcomer to all of this, and you came from Florida. Who else, when you came here, did you bring from Florida with you to help you with this initiative?
Well, I didn't bring anybody to begin with, but now my director is part of the work, and she has turned around middle schools. I saw that I really needed help with my secondary schools, even though I was a high school principal for 12 years. My focus was on elementary, but I needed that additional support in the secondary realm. So I did add her on this year. But everyone else is from CCSD.
Wow.
And great. I have 2 great district instructional specialists that know CCSD. They know the city, they know the culture, they know the curriculum. And it's important that you don't bring a whole lot of people in, because you need to know the culture of the city and the dynamics of what has happened prior to and where we're headed as far as education is concerned.
And what happened prior to you coming on here?
Well, I know there were some initiatives prior to me coming. I'm not sure how effective those initiatives were, but based on what my colleagues are saying, that this has been one. This has been successful, the new work that we're doing, and that's good. And so we don't want to so much focus on the past, but we want to make sure, as I mentioned before, that whatever we're doing, that it stays in place with that leader, that those leaders know what it takes to move a school, and they use those 4 levers of school improvement, which is having strong leaders, having teachers, talent management, having teachers that receive professional development, they receive feedback, they receive coaching from those principals, and making sure that that instructional infrastructure is strong, that we have a strong curriculum, and that they build strong climate and culture, that students feel good about being in their school, as well as the teachers. Because teachers, it's a lot of hard work for teachers to work in low-performing schools, and it's taxing. It is taxing for a leader and a teacher to work in low-performing schools, because it takes that special interest, that special person, that extra work that has to go on in those schools. I was a principal in a low-performing school for 12 years, and it's work that you have to love and work that you want to do. But we also have to make sure that we're keeping our teachers and retaining them and recruiting them into our schools, because that's critical in keeping up this work.
So what is the retention rate right now for teachers in Charleston County schools?
Well, in Charleston County schools, I'm not sure what that retention rate is, but I can tell you in acceleration schools, our retention has increased. It has increased. And
how much by?
By a little bit.
Okay.
It didn't drop, but it increased. We kept more teachers this year. And Quintin, I attribute that to the support we're giving teachers, to the professional development we're giving teachers, to helping them build their capacity. Because teachers want to know that they're doing an effective job, and they want to do their best. And when you're there to give them maybe extra pay, extra time, because they need time to create what needs to happen, the magic in classrooms, and you're there supporting them and you're with them. When they go to professional development, my team is there. I'm there. Principals are there. So they know we're in this together. But building that capacity for teachers is, I think, helped with retention.
Now, how much is the extra pay for those acceleration school teachers?
So I don't have the figures in front of me, but if you work at an acceleration school, you are given up to $2,000 to $4,000 to be in an acceleration school. And ESSER funds has really assisted us with that. So that's been wonderful. And
yes,
if
ma'am.
they come to work every day for 45 days, each 9 weeks, they get a $500 bonus.
Wow.
And that's not only for teachers, but that's for our support staff as well.
So with the ESSER funds, how much were you able to pay those teachers the extra pay?
So Bill Brigman has been working closely with us in HR to help us create that plan and to implement the plan. So I don't have the direct numbers, but we do have lots of funding to assist with that.
How much ESSER funds did you all actually received?
Wow. Well, the district received millions of dollars. As far as acceleration schools, we received probably about 7 million.
Wow.
And it has come in, I wish we could have it all the time, because it has really lifted our teachers. You know, teachers need to be paid more money, regardless of if they're in acceleration or not. Just in general, our teachers deserve better pay throughout the United States. And until we get to that point to pay our teachers more for what they do, to have a level playing field, then we'll be able to compete with all these other industries, because we're not bringing in teachers like we used to back in the day. Yeah.
So with that extra pay and all these other initiatives, incentives for acceleration schools, how many teachers have you all been able to keep on so far with the acceleration schools?
I'm going to take a guess that we have kept at least 70% of our teachers.
Wow.
Yeah. Our retention rate was much better last year.
Wow.
And we're looking forward to seeing what happens this year. Charleston, as a whole, our school district, we're working on attracting teachers to this region. And of course, when teachers come, we want them to all be in acceleration schools, of course, because our students deserve the best teachers. But teachers aren't growing on trees, and colleges aren't producing as many teachers as they used to. So that's why making sure that we build teachers' capacity is important to keeping our teachers in the industry. We just had a meeting last week. Chamber of Commerce came to speak to all of our principals, and they talked about the industry in this area and the need of teachers. We need teachers in this area, along with the other jobs that are offered in this area. Teachers, there's a high need for teachers.
Wow. And you talked earlier about strong leaders. One strong leader that we all know in this area is Dustin Daniels. Tell me, how did he work with you all for acceleration schools?
Well, Dustin Daniels was our consultant. So when I first arrived, he helped me learn how to navigate the Charleston area, to make connections with the community. We had several community meetings that he assisted us with, and making sure that I was getting out in the community to help with that, to help me understand the community needs. He was very instrumental in making sure that we had opportunities that I could connect with. So one of the great opportunities, give you an example, was the National Education Equity Lab, where at Burke we are offering dual enrollment courses from Spelman College, from Harvard, and from Princeton, and from Penn State. And through those connections, that's tremendous for this area and for Burke High School. So Mr. Daniels has a really good way of helping leaders at my level to become connected to the community. So that was his role.
Now, how did he help you turn around some of those schools that are now up where they need to be?
Well, his help was more of connecting to the community. And connecting to other organizations. So you always, when you come into a new position in education, there's that instructional piece that has to be done. And we are so instructionally focused, right? And so part of growing as a leader is, how do I connect with the community? And what other initiatives do I need to have? So that was his role in doing so.
Now, I know from Florida, what school did he actually help turn around there as far as acceleration schools?
Well, we have 50 of them, Quintin. So he had a major role there, working with the school district and making that connection with state legislators in Tallahassee, making sure that we knew how to navigate that turnaround process in Hillsborough.
Wow, which is Tampa Bay. And so you talked about Dustin in the past tense. Is he still working for the district?
No, he doesn't. He never worked for the district.
Okay.
Yeah, he never worked for the district.
Just consultant?
He was a consultant with me.
Wow. And how long was that?
That was for a year, approximately a year, maybe 7 to 8 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so it wasn't as soon as I came on. It was a little bit afterwards. And Dr. Postlethwaite and Ms. Belcher were very instrumental in making that happen. So we had an opportunity to work together for about 6 to 7 months, which was good for us launching acceleration schools.
And what was his pay? Because, I mean, it takes a lot of work to get this done.
I'm not quite sure what his pay was. I'm not quite sure what his pay was, but it was on a consulting basis.
Wow. So going forth, what can we expect from acceleration schools in Charleston County?
You can expect improvement from all of our schools. You can expect that our schools will be engaging, that we will not be on anyone's state list. At least these schools that I'm working with right now, that they're coming off the state list. You can expect strong leadership and students that we're preparing to be leaders by 2027 and to be college ready. And you can expect teachers that are very developed in their knowledge around teaching and implementation of curriculum. So our schools are going to be, all of our schools are the best in CCSD. We have great schools, but you're going to see major improvement in our inner city schools and what we offer in those schools.
And one last question for you, Ms. Jacqueline. Well, how many schools, acceleration schools, are still left on the state's list?
Can you repeat that, Quintin?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Sorry about the wind in the background here, but well, how many acceleration schools within Charleston County Schools are still on that state list?
Well, part of what the state does is once you're on the list, you're on there for 3 years. So we're waiting for the list to come out in January.
Okay.
And we'll see who's still on it, who is not. We know we'll have some schools off of that list, but if they're still on, it's because there was not enough improvement. We saw improvement, but not enough improvement. Schools that are maybe added to the list would be because they did not do well on their state testing. And I may pick up some of those schools in acceleration schools, which I'll be excited about because it is my passion for school turnaround. That is what I love doing. So if we do pick up some schools, we'll bring them into the fold and support them as well.
And I hate to ask this question, Ms. Jacqueline, but how many schools do you anticipate getting being picked up by your Acceleration Schools initiative?
That I don't know, maybe 1 or 2. I believe that Charleston we are doing a good job in supporting our schools. So I'm hoping no more than 2 to 3 schools added to that list.
Jacqueline Haynes with the Charleston County School District's Acceleration Schools initiative. Thank you for your time. And again, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
All right. Thank you, Quintin. Nice to meet you.
Likewise, virtually. Yes, ma'am.